Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. This is episode 31. And like always, if you want today's show notes, please go to drpierresblog.com/LLP031. Again, if you want today's show notes, please go to drpierresblog.com/LLP031. And today we have a great episode. Today I'm going to be talking about, do you trust your doctor? And, I know some of you are wondering, why is this even a question? Because for some of you, of course I trust my doctor. This is someone who kind of takes care of my life, right? Why wouldn't I trust my doctor? But what kind of motivated me is, I was looking into writing another book, right? So I was looking into writing another book on the doctor-patient relationship. And one of the big things that comes right off the page, right, is the trust factor, right? If you're going to have a good doctor-patient relationship, you got to be able to trust that person. And what I found was so surprising, especially when we talk about the trust factor, that I was like, yeah, you know what? I have to put this out in the air right now, because I think I was just as confused as what I was reading when I did just a general search of, do you trust doctor? It was mind blowing how many people don't. So sit back, we're going to get into another great episode, and we're going to learn a little things, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll start to trust your doctor a little bit more if you already don't. So I think first and foremost, we have to really start out in saying, why is it even important, right, to trust your doctor, right? Because it's one question to ask, do you trust your doctor? But if you don't really understand the importance of it, then it doesn't really matter if you ask me, right? So I can tell you, I am a internal medicine physician. I do outpatient medicine, or I did. I always have to correct myself because I just recently got a new job. I did outpatient medicine for a few years after residency. Now I do inpatient medicine, where I take care of patients in a hospital. And sometimes it's interesting, right? Because a lot of times your knowledge doesn't really get questioned. Right. It's something that usually doesn't even kind of come up in the conversation. If a person, walks into your office and, sits down, books an appointment with you, they've already made the necessary steps, or at least that's what I used to think. They already made the necessary steps to say, you know what? I trust this person enough that even though my insurance company gave me this person's name, I'm going to put my health in their hands, right? Because that's what you do, right, when you go to see your doctor, whether you're seeing a pediatrician, an OB-GYN, a cardiologist, an internist, a family med physician, orthopedic surgeon, regardless of the specialty, right? When you're going to see them, you're putting your health care and all the decisions, for the most part, of your health care in their hands. So I think it's extremely important to make sure that we're understanding that all the stuff that we do, especially as a physician, is always going to be in the best interest of our patient, and in our patient's, eyes, making sure that, all the stuff that your physician asks you to do, right, usually shouldn't have any consequence on your outlook. And when I started thinking about, I do want to do another book, I do want to kind of talk about this, doctor-patient relationship, one of the key factors that, kept coming up, especially when we talk about people who have bad doctor-patient relationship, right? Because it's one thing to look at the good, right? There's a lot of commonalities associated with people who have good doctor-patient relationships. I mean, people who love their doctor and doctors who love their patients, a lot of common similarities associated with them. But I really wanted to talk about why does a person not like their doctor, right? What makes it so that when you go to the doctor, you absolutely hate everything about the doctor and you can't wait to leave, or regardless of how long you spend in that appointment, whether it be 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 30 minutes, however long it normally is for that appointment, that you're not going to listen to a thing this person says in front of you, right? Because that's where the breakdown comes in, right? I read a study that said that patients don't sue doctors they don't like, right? So I'm sorry, but yeah, patients don't sue doctors they like, right? So even if you do something that may be deemed as malpractice in a patient's eyes, if they like you, they're likely not going to sue you. So when patients go to sue a physician, usually it's because they have no relationship with that physician, right? There's no bond that says, you know what, I don't want to see this person get hurt. And even though they made a mistake, I'm not going to hold them over the fire for it. So I think that's a big thing, right? Like, when I was an outpatient, internist, like I want to know what are all I need to do to make sure I don't get sued, right? Because I don't want to get sued. I'm in the state of Florida and they're suing people for everything, right? So I want to make sure I'm not one of the people who get sued for everything, right? So that's when that's when I kind of started moving forward and kind of looking deeper into this aspect of, doctor-patient relationship. And, that's where trust became a big thing, right? Like, what I implore you right now, what if you got some time, right? Google, do you trust your doctor, right? Just Google, do you trust your doctor? And about the first 10 articles are going to be like, no, don't trust them. Don't trust her. They're in it for themselves. Do not don't all of these extremely negative, right? Negative blogs and articles about why there's no way a person should be trusting their doctor. And again, here I am, right? I'm an internist. I was doing outpatient medicine and now I do inpatient medicine. Every decision I make, is likely life or death. And there's a faction of people who don't really trust the things that come in my mouth, right? So that's crazy to me, right? There's a faction of people who says, you know what? I don't care what this person says. I'm going to go and do what I want to do, right? Especially when it comes to my health, right? So that's something I was I definitely got to make sure, one, I try to eliminate that feeling in my patients. And that was always a big driver for me. How can I eliminate that feeling? And how can I earn this person's trust? Especially, I think, in the outpatient setting, right? In the outpatient setting where if a patient's coming to my office for the first time, I have about, on average, 15 to 30 minutes, right, to really earn their trust, right? And this is a person they just, don't know from diddly. Their insurance gave me this doctor's name, and that's why I'm here, and I need to get a checkup. So they don't know nothing about this person, right? Especially in this day and age where we have our physicians who don't really do much outside of put their names on an insurance piece of paper, and that's how a patient comes to them, right? They're not really doing much from a marketing standpoint to kind of stick out, right? And that's something that I'll probably have a podcast on later on, as well as what our physicians need to do to get in line. But I'll be honest, right? I'm obviously a minority, right? So I understand, right? I understand if you're a minority in this country, right, and you don't trust this healthcare system, right? Because, in fact, I think one of my great friend of mine, Dr. Watson Ducatel, he wrote a great blog post. I will post it in the links, show notes. He wrote a great blog post on all of the egregious actions, right, our U.S. healthcare system has done to minorities in this country, right? So if you're a minority, right, and you don't trust the healthcare system as a whole, I 100% understand, right? So I understand fully, right? But I want you to understand fully that not trusting this healthcare system alone isn't going to help you avoid you not getting sick, right? It's not going to avoid you, not falling ill to, your disease. It's not going to avoid, all of the morbidities that could associate, right, if you don't get yourself taken care of, right? So on one hand, I 1,000%, I said 100, but I 1,000% understand why some of you may not trust this healthcare system, right? And they have great reason to, right? When Dr. Ducatel was writing that blog post and I read it and I was doing my editing of it, it was shocking, right, to see some of the actions that take place, right? I read about Henrietta Lacks and all those things that they did to her, and obviously we know very well of the Tuskegee issue, right? So it's a lot of things that this healthcare system's done in the name of quote unquote healthcare that would make me say, yeah, know what, I'm not messing with no doctor for the rest of my life, right? So I 1,000% understand that, right? I just want you to know in 2017, Dr. Barry's here to let you know that that's not going to stop you from getting colon cancer. That's not going to stop you from getting lung cancer. That's not going to stop you from, suffering an amputation because your diabetes is under control. That's not going to stop you from getting a stroke because your blood pressure is under control because you wouldn't take 1 or 2 blood pressure medications, right? Like that mistrust is valid. I recognize it and I agree with it, but I need you to help me get you to the point where we're not worried about that no more, right? And again, I'm biased. I understand. I want to be your physician, or I want to be the voice of the physician you go to see, right? I want you to be able to say, yeah, you know what? I kind of don't trust this healthcare system, but Dr. Barry said, you know what? I got to take care of myself first. I got to quote unquote, my motto, right? I want to prevent the preventable death. And if I got to do that, like I got to come see you, right? So we got to be able to meet some happy medium. And I think that's what's going to get us to that next level and that next spot of where we want to get to. And so next thing is, I've talked about the doctor-patient relationship. I've talked about, what that even means, right? But where are we at in 2017 versus where we may have been at, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, right? In terms of this doctor-patient relationship. I can tell you in the past, right? In the past, it was so much easier for physicians, right? Because in the past, when you had a patient come into your office, right, the only relationship that they had was, I'm going to my doctor's office. My doctor tells me to jump 10 feet and I'm jumping 10 feet, right? Like that was pretty much the relationship, right? You had the doctor who pretty much kind of said what goes, and the patient just kind of had to deal with it, right? So even if you were that type of patient who liked to question or, who liked to kind of come up with their own back then, it wouldn't have mattered, right? Because your doctor was the type that said, no. I say take this medication. I say, do this exercises. I say do this diet, and that's what I need you to do. So that was one and only relationship that we had, especially from a doctor-patient relationship, right? That was old, right? That's old news right now, right? Not to say that they aren't, those types of relationships now, because there are, and it does have its pros and cons regarding it. And we'll talk about it in a little bit, as far as, the good and bad of like each of these types of relationships, because there's like right now about 3 of them that we can really focus on. So that's that first one. That first one is, you go to the doctor, you pretty much do whatever the doctor says, and, everyone's quote unquote happy, right? That's the old type relationship, right? So now we're moving on to this, almost like a partnership, right? So that's the type 2, right? It's like a partnership, right? Where you come to your doctor's office and you hear what they got to say, and you ask your questions, and you try to come to some happy medium before you leave your doctor's office, and both of you guys are somewhat happy, right? So that's like the second relationship, right? Now the third relationship, right? And then the third one, I can tell you, gets my physician friends like in a tizzy, right? Like the third one is the one where we hear terms such as Dr. Google and Mr. Second Opinion. Like the third one is what drives some of these physicians crazy, right? Especially those physicians who may be used to that first type of relationship, right? Where like, I'm the doctor, I say, do this and you're supposed to do that, right? The third one is the patient who is informed, sometimes wrongly informed, but informed, like they do their homework, they do their research. And when they're coming to see you, they're not really coming for any advice. They're just more to say, hey, doctor, I plan on doing, A, B, C, and D. And I just wanted to let you know I'm doing A, B, C, and D. Hope you don't have a problem with it, right? So as a physician, you're more of the facilitator of how to get A, B, C, and D, right? More than anything else, right? Like they hear that, you want to put them on this certain medication, but they're going to try this natural supplement first, right? They hear that, you want to send them to this specialist, but you know what? They're going to try this, this their own specialist first, right? So everything is a battle with them per se, especially if you're the other type of physician where you're just not used to that. So let's talk about like the pros and cons of all 3 of them, right? Because there are some good things, there are some bad things, right? So I talk about that first relationship, right? Where you come in, the doctor says, jump, you ask how high. Good thing about that, right, is in the patient's eyes, they don't really have to make a decision, right? Because I can tell you, some patients don't want to have to make a decision, and they don't want to be the one to make that decision, right? They want the physician, who did all that schooling. They want that person to make the decision for them, right? And, for a lot of physicians, that's great, right? And now the cons to that, right? Like, let's say you're the patient who may want to make that decision, right? If you're a physician who's used to that first type of relationship, you guys are going to sometimes clash, right? Because you're going to say, hey, I told you to, take this medication. I told you to go see this person here. Why didn't you do it? And, if you're, type B, you're the one who likes a little bit more of a teamwork, and you're asking a little bit more questions than that physician wants to deal with, right? There's going to be some annoyance that kind of kicks in there, right? Or if, better or worse, right? If you're, that third relationship, and you're the type like, no, like, doc, I hear you telling me I need to get a mammogram, but I'm going to do an ultrasound, right? Like, if you're that type of physician, the patient, right, you're going to bump a lot of heads with those types of patients, right? So that's where, that problem comes arise. Usually that first type of relationship usually doesn't give any leeway to the patient, right? The patient really kind of gives up their autonomy, kind of gives up their control in order for the physician to do work for them, right? So that's like probably like the downside of that, especially from a patient perspective. The second one, right? The second one, where it's a little bit more of a teamwork aspect, where it's more of a, hey, you have this diagnosis. Let's say you have high blood pressure, and because you have high blood pressure, I think we should do this. If you're the type of physician, right, who likes this type of relationship where everything's kind of a team thing, you may run into those problems with a patient who likes the first one, right? A patient who likes you to just kind of tell them what to do, because a lot of patients will kind of perceive that as you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, why is this doctor asking me like what I want to do, right? Doesn't he know? And then mistrust kind of builds in, right? Which again is crazy, right? Like, you think you're doing your patient a service by including him in the decision making, but if you're dealing with a patient who does not want to be included in that decision making, problems going to kick in for you again, right? So again, that's something to think about. Something to think about when we talk about, like that second part, right? Like I said, it does have some good parts, does have some bad parts as well. And last but not least, right? Again, our last stage, right? Where really the patient is like super educated, and again, could be wrongly educated, could be rightly educated. Super educated on their disease, their topic, their health, right? And they're coming to the doctor because one, they're they want to confirm that they read is right. So they want, they're the ones who probably are going to be bringing you, an article from WebMD, bringing you an article from, Google articles, or from the blogosphere and internet. And they're pretty much saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm just letting you know this is what's going to happen, right? So if you're that physician, again, if you're the first even two types of physicians, right, and you're rigid, right, and you're rigid in your ways, right, and we'll talk about, why the onus is likely on the doctor and not really the patient. And I know my physician friends are probably rolling their eyes right now. Like, it's when you're that type of physician, right, who may be dealing with that, like, you can kind of flow back and forth between the first two relationships, and you got this person who's bringing you all this stuff and telling you, no, this is what they're going to do, right? You're going to clash as well too, right? Because, you in your eyes, you do all of this schooling, and, why is this person who is able to just Google their symptoms telling you what you should do, right? Why is this person telling you should prescribe this medication versus that medication, right? That's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way in that regard. So very, very important to understand with those three types of relationship, there's some good and there's some bad, right? So here's the thing, right? Especially, and again, I want my patients, my physician friends to understand, right? I think as a physician, we have to be the ones who kind of adjust, right? Like the best physicians are the ones who can go from, and they some of them do it well. I like to kind of toot my own horn and say that, I can kind of ebb and flow through all of these different types of relationships. And for me, it probably takes like 3 minutes with you to understand like which way you're going to go, right? Because as a physician, you never know which type of patient this person's going to be, right? And how to like really maximize it, right? But like I've actually read books on, the doctor-patient relationship in the past. I've read, articles, and I've said, all right, like I've read cues to kind of pick up on, especially during your question and answer phase in the beginning. So I know very quickly, it doesn't take me very long to kind of understand which type of patient I'm dealing with, right? And I'm telling you, I deal with these type of patients inside the hospital and the ones inside the office, right? Like when you have a patient who's a certain way, you want to be able to adjust to them very quickly, right? Or, problems will arise. And again, when I say problems, again, I'm usually talking about health consequences, right? When you have that doctor-patient relationship and it's not good, health consequences are going to be high of concern for you. As a physician, if we want to get back to where the doctor-patient relationship is amazing and back where it needs to be, like, we have to be able to say, you know what, how can I adjust for my patient, and really not the other way around, because these patients aren't budging, right? And these patients are budging. If you're one of my former patients, or you're a patient of mine, or future patient, somebody's listening, right? Understand that you may go to one physician and absolutely love that physician, and then you send your friend to that same physician, that friend's like, nah, I hate him. And this is the reason why, right? Because they have that doctor-patient mismatch that occurs like during their encounter, that pretty much throws them off for everything else, right? So I think it's invaluable, right? It's invaluable, especially if you want to take care of patients, and as a patient, if you want to like take care of yourself and have the best relationship with your doctor, right? Like recognizing like which type of doctor or which type of patient you're dealing with is going to go a long way. And I truly feel that as a physician, right? Like, I think the onus is likely going to be on us to do more of the adjusting than the other way around, right? Like, if you're going to have a patient, if you're a patient, right, who is in that first relationship, who they just go to the doctor tells them what to do and they do it, you're likely not going to change, right? Like, you're likely not going to change for every single doctor you go to, right? So as a physician, right, I think we have to be the ones to say, all right, this is a person where I got to tell them, take this blood pressure medication at this time, come see me in 3 months, bam. Like, I know I have to tell person A that. Because if I don't tell person A that, one person A is not going to trust me, they're not going to respect my decision, and they're going to be so indecisive that they're not going to do any of the work. But if, let's say I have patient B, I got patient B who wants to make this like a team thing, and they want to know a little bit about, their disorder, right? They want to know a little bit about hypertension, a little bit about, diabetes, but they definitely don't want to know as much as, your type C patient. Like, they definitely don't want to have to be, looking up the epidemiology of things and who gets affected. Like, they don't want to go that in depth, right? They just want to kind of have like a glossed over approach of their disease, just so they can kind of understand why you're doing the things you do. Like, they still trust you, but they just want to make sure that, they have some ownership as well, right? And that's, I think, extremely important, right? Look, you want your patients to have ownership in what they do, right? Especially the ones who want it. Again, some patients don't want it. For some patients, their ownership lies in them walking into your office and saying, here, take care of me. That's it, right? Like, that's as far as it goes, right? They're not thinking about, well, why is this doctor telling me I have to like make a decision, right? Because if I have to make a decision, I'm just not going to make it, or I'm just going to get me a second opinion on someone who will. And, all patients are entitled to getting their second opinions, right? And again, this is a free country. You can go see whoever you want to see, but understand that if whoever you're going to see that second, third, that fourth, that fifth time, if they're the same like your first doctor, right, in terms of like the category they fit in, you're going to bump heads every single time. And then for my C patients, my Dr. Google patients, my Mr. Second Opinion patients, right, or Mrs. Second Opinion patients, right? And you walk into that doctor's office who doesn't really vibe with what you want to say, right? You're going to be the type where you're never going to almost see a doctor, right? You're never going to want to go see a doctor because they're always going to disagree with you, right? So you always have to find this balance of being able to allow the patient to be the driver's seat, but understanding that you're not going to just sit in the passenger seat while they drive off a cliff, right? And I think as a physician, we have to be very mindful, right? If you get those patients, right, the Dr. Google patients, and, they want to take the driver's seat and you're 100% fine with them taking the driver's seat, that's okay. But understand that as a physician, right, you do have the onus to say, hey, I went to school for all of these years and I did all of this training and I hear what you want to say, but let me tell you my expert opinion, because we are experts, right? And I think that's where I want to kind of end this, right? Because I think as physicians, that's something that we've kind of lost. Like, we've lost the ability to be experts, right? We've lost that ability to say, hey, I am Dr. So-and-so, and this is why you have to listen to me. And this is for all of those patient types across the board, right? Like, they don't consider us the viable source, right, when it comes to their healthcare, right? They consider all of these other facets, right? They consider the internet, the Dr. Oz's of the world. No problem with Dr. Oz, by the way, unless he's telling you like to lose weight with like taking beans or something, right? That's the only problem. That's the only time me and Dr. Oz got a problem, right? When he starts saying some stuff that I'm like, Dr. Oz, stop it, sir. Especially because, again, for those who may not know, Dr. Oz is like a cardiothoracic surgeon, right? So this guy is brilliant, right? So he's not like no slouch of physician, right? This guy's brilliant. But when he starts telling you to take beans to lose weight and some crazy, thing like that, that's where me and him start butting some heads. But anyways, you have these patients who have put physicians, right, as like fifth on the totem pole in regards to health expertise, right? And all of these things is kind of like driving a wedge in this doctor-patient relationship, right? Because again, if you don't consider your doctor as the primary source for your health, like if you don't consider your doctor as the primary expert in taking care of you, especially when it comes to your healthcare, like that's a problem, right? And I think that's a problem that we as physicians like really, really have to address with ourselves, right? Like, if you like look around, if you looked up, if you Googled and you Googled yourself, right? If you're a physician, right, and you Googled yourself, like what comes up, right? Is it your website? Is it your articles that you posted? Or is it the Yelp version for physicians, right? Is it the Doximities of the world? And shout out to Doximity. I am a Doximity fellow. So again, no problem with Doximity. Is it the health grades of the world, right? Is it this U.S. health news? Is it all of these rating websites and nothing about you? Because this is what your patients are doing, right? They're Googling, right? They're Googling, and not to say Google's a bad thing, because Google does very well. But if your patient goes to Google you, if your patient goes to Google a diagnosis, they go to Google a disorder, and you're not one of those people that they can find online and say, hey, this is what you got, this is what you need to deal with it. Of course, they're not going to trust you, right? So again, I leave it there with saying, physicians, we need to do a better job establishing the expertise of what we do, right? Like we do a great job like amongst each other, right? Hey, I wrote in this article. Hey, I presented here at this, conference. We do a great job of telling our accolades to each other, which is all fine and dandy. But if you don't tell it to the patient, the one who you need to take care of, that means absolutely nothing, right? Like, because your patient doesn't care, right? Your patient does not care that you publish in New England Journal of Medicine. Why? Because they're not reading it. Your patient doesn't care if you publish in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Why? Because they don't read it. Like, your average patient is not reading all of these places that all of your great work is posted in, right? So you posting it there and not telling them doesn't mean a hill of beans. So we got to get back, right? So that's where I want to kind of end it there. And for those who got to this point, if you're interested in, a free chapter of this audio, this book I'm reading, what I want you to do right now is I want you to text free audio book, all one word, FREEAUDIOBOOK. I want you to text that to 1-678-506-7543, and I'm going to give you a free audio chapter of the book I'm working on, How to Be the Perfect Patient, right? Again, the text info is free audio book, all one word, at 1-678-506-7543. You'll get a free chapter on the upcoming book, How to Be the Perfect Patient. And that's it, man. So we're going to, sign off here, and hope this was a great episode. We're going to see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I hope you enjoyed that episode like I enjoyed giving you that episode for your listening pleasure. If you want, please join the community. Please tell a friend to join the community. I'm over at Twitter. I'm over at Facebook. I'm even over at Pinterest. Like, I'm everywhere. Everywhere where you want to be, I'm probably there. My username is pretty much the same everywhere you go. lunchlearnpod.com. Lunch Learn Pod at Facebook, Lunch Learn Pod at Twitter, and the hashtag that we're using, especially when you're listening to the episode and you want to share it and you want to tell all your friends, is Lunch Learn Pod as well. All one word. And before I let you go, please do me a favor. Head over to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And even if you like listening on my website, leave me a comment, leave me a review, let me know how I'm doing. Leave me even a comment to say, hey, I'd like to hear about this topic versus that topic, and I'll be gladly able to kind of squeeze that in on the schedule. And you guys continue to have a great and blessed day, and I'm going to see you guys next week.